What happens when a director fires a gun on set? Or when an actor suffers a heart attack while filming in the jungle? Welcome to Hollywood's Hardest Sets, 9 challenging on-set relationships that change films forever. Did you know that Stanley Kubrick made Shelley Duvall repeat a single scene 127 times until she began losing her hair from stress? Behind the magic of cinema lies a shocking reality. According to a 2018 Directors Guild survey, over 65% of major productions experience significant cast-crew conflicts that fundamentally alter the final film. Today, we're examining 9 of the most challenging on-set relationships in film history. Number 9. Klaus Kinski and Werner Herzog. The relationship between director Werner Herzog and actor Klaus Kinski ranks among cinema's most volatile yet productive partnerships. Their 5-film collaboration produced classics like Aguirre, The Wrath of God, 1972, and Fitzcarraldo, 1982, but at tremendous personal cost. Herzog himself has been remarkably candid about their troubled dynamic. "We had a great love-hate relationship. I needed him, and he needed me," Herzog told The Guardian in 2008. "People think we were enemies, but that wasn't true. We got on well most of the time." Yet Herzog's documentary, My Best Fiend, 1999, reveals the darker truth. During the filming of Aguirre in the Peruvian jungle, Kinski threatened to walk off set repeatedly. In his most notorious outburst documented by multiple crew members, Kinski fired 3 gunshots into a hut where extras were playing cards, blowing the finger off one man. The tension reached such extremes during Fitzcarraldo that local indigenous extras reportedly offered to kill Kinski on Herzog's behalf, an offer Herzog claims he declined. As he recounted in his 2009 book, Conquest of the Useless, "They said they would kill him for me, and I said, no, for God's sake, I need him for filming. I still have scenes to do with him." What made this relationship so significant was not just its volatility, but how it directly shaped the art itself. The intense, manic energy that made Kinski nearly impossible to direct was precisely what Herzog needed on screen. Without this challenging dynamic, these landmark films might never have achieved their ferocious power. But this came at a heavy cost to crew members, who often found themselves caught in the crossfire of epic tantrums and threatening behavior. If that dynamic sounds difficult, just wait until we reach number 6, where an acclaimed director broke down in tears over his star's behavior. Number 8. Shelley Duvall and Stanley Kubrick. Few challenging on-set relationships have been as thoroughly documented as the ordeal Shelley Duvall endured during the 13-month shoot of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, 1980. What makes this case especially notable is that much of Kubrick's treatment of Duvall was captured on film by his daughter Vivian for the documentary Making The Shining. Kubrick's perfectionism pushed Duvall to physical and emotional extremes. The famous baseball bat scene reportedly required 127 takes, a number confirmed by both production records and Kubrick's own statements to Michelle Semen in the book Kubrick, 1980. The scene where she backs up the stairs swinging the bat was shot 45 times a day for approximately 2 weeks straight. "Going through day after day of excruciating work was almost unbearable," Duvall told Roger Ebert in 1980. "Jack Nicholson's character had to be crazy and angry all the time, and my character had to cry 12 hours a day, all day long, the last 9 months straight, 5 or 6 days a week." In the documentary footage, we see Duvall lying exhausted on the floor between takes, surrounded by tissues, her hair falling out from stress. At one point, she presents Kubrick with clumps of hair to show the physical toll the production was taking. Kubrick defended his methods, telling Semen, "Actors have to be pushed. Shelley's performance in the film is excellent, and I don't think she could have achieved it without going through what she went through." While the film is now regarded as a masterpiece, the question remains whether such psychological pressure was necessary. Vivian Kubrick later expressed regret about some of her father's methods, and Duvall's experience has become a pivotal example in discussions about directorial ethics and the limits of method direction. The impact on Duvall was significant. Though she continued her career, she has spoken about how the experience changed her approach to acting forever. Speaking of pushing actors to their limits, Our number 7 entry shows what happens when a director's demands for realism go too far. Number 7. Sarah Polley and Terry Gilliam. In 1988, 9-year-old Sarah Polley arrived on the set of Terry Gilliam's ambitious fantasy, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, unaware she was entering one of the most dangerous and mismanaged productions in modern film history. Now, an acclaimed director herself, Polley has gone on record with alarming accounts of her experience. "There were several times I nearly died on that film," Polley told The Independent in 2007. "There was a scene where I was supposed to be floating above a hot air balloon, and they had me hanging from a helicopter 50 feet in the air from a very thin rope that kept breaking." According to Polley, and corroborated by multiple crew members in the documentary Lost in La Mancha, safety protocols were routinely ignored. In her most harrowing account, Polley described a scene involving explosives. "They had me on a boat that was being towed by another boat, and they didn't calculate the pull correctly, so the boat I was on was actually being dragged through the water. There were these massive explosions going off, and I was shouting, 'I can't stay on the boat.' They were screaming through megaphones, 'Hold on, hold on.'" Gilliam has disputed some of these specific incidents, but acknowledged the production was troubled. In his 2015 memoir, Gilliam-esque, he wrote, "The making of Baron Munchausen is a story worthy of a book itself, or a film, or a medical case study into human perseverance under extreme duress." The production's problems weren't limited to safety concerns. Budget overruns were massive, starting at $23.5 million, but reportedly ballooning to over $46.63 million, leading to intense studio pressure and deteriorating relationships on set. Polley has been clear about the lasting impact. "I quit acting for a couple of years after that movie," she told the New York Times in 2022. "That experience turned me off of being a professional actor for a long time." This case stands as a sobering example of how a filmmaker's vision, when unchecked by proper safety measures and budget constraints, can put vulnerable actors, particularly child actors, at risk. The film itself is now considered a visual masterpiece, but its troubled production has become as much a part of its legacy as its artistic achievements. Our next entry shows what happens when one of Hollywood's biggest stars repeatedly crosses boundaries with his co-star. Number 6. David O. Russell and Lily Tomlin. In 2004, director David O. Russell and actress Lily Tomlin collaborated on the philosophical comedy I Heart Huckabees. What might have been a footnote in cinema history became infamous in 2007 when 2 separate on-set videos leaked online, showing Russell in explosive, profanity-laden tirades directed at Tomlin. These incidents are unique in our list because they were captured on video, leaving no room for disputed accounts. In the first clip, Russell erupts after Tomlin expresses frustration with his direction, sweeping items off a desk and shouting obscenities. In the second, even more volatile video, Russell screams at Tomlin, who attempts to continue the scene while he calls her the rudest kyak in the world. The footage became one of the earliest viral videos of its kind, permanently altering Russell's public image. Tomlin spoke about the incident on NPR's Fresh Air in 2011. "It was just a moment," she said. "It was just one of those unfortunate things. We've made up and we adore each other." Russell himself addressed the incidents in a 2012 New York Times interview. "I'm not going to say it wasn't what it was. I wrote to Lily afterward and said, 'You know we've put all this effort into this movie and we're down to the last minutes. And for us to fall apart over this moment is just ridiculous.'" What makes this case significant is how it changed the power dynamic in Hollywood. Before camera phones and YouTube, such behavior might have remained industry lore. Instead, it became public evidence that forced a reckoning. While Russell's career continued with acclaimed films like Silver Linings Playbook, the incident has followed him, with actors like George Clooney and Amy Adams later coming forward with their own accounts of difficult experiences working with the director. For crew members, these outbursts created a hostile work environment, with several reporting that they felt unable to do their jobs properly amid the tension. The production weathered these storms, but the question remains, at what cost to the creative process and the people involved? Our Word of 5 entry takes us back to the golden age of Hollywood, where 2 legends nearly came to blows. Number 5. Frank Sinatra and Marlon Brando. When Frank Sinatra and Marlon Brando were cast in 1955's Guys and Dolls, it set the stage for one of Hollywood's most legendary clashes of ego and methodology. The tension stemmed from multiple sources. Sinatra had wanted Brando's role of Sky Masterson. Brando resented Sinatra's casual approach to acting, and their political views were diametrically opposed. Joseph L. Mankiewicz, the film's director, went on record about their conflicts in Kitty Kelley's 1986 biography, His Way, the unauthorized biography of Frank Sinatra. The tension between them was so thick you could cut it with a knife. They detested each other. Sinatra, renowned for completing scenes in a single take, mockingly called Brando mumbles and would openly disparage his method acting approach. According to multiple accounts, including Sam Kashner's 2005 Vanity Fair article, The Bobby Darin Story, Sinatra would tell crew members, "When I do one take, Mr. Brando wants to do 20. Brando, meanwhile, deliberately antagonized Sinatra. In one documented incident during the filming of the Luck Be a Lady sequence, Brando, who struggled with the musical aspects of his role, deliberately blew take after take, forcing the one-take wonder Sinatra to repeat a physically demanding dance number multiple times. The conflict culminated in a near-physical altercation, witnessed by multiple crew members. When Brando missed a cue and Sinatra erupted, "How many times are we going to do this goddamn scene?" Brando reportedly stood toe-to-toe with Sinatra before assistants intervened. Despite their personal animosity, both men were consummate professionals when the cameras rolled, delivering performances that helped make the film a commercial success. However, they never worked together again, and Sinatra refused to discuss Brando in interviews for years afterward. What makes this conflict particularly significant is how it represented the clash between Hollywood's old guard, Sinatra, and the new method approach, Brando, that would come to dominate American acting. Their personal dislike became emblematic of a seismic shift in film acting styles that continues to influence performers today. As tense as things got between Sinatra and Brando, they were nothing compared to the physical danger involved in our number 4 entry. Number 4. Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski. We return to Herzog and Kinski for a deeper examination of what many film historians consider the most challenging film production of all time, 1982's Fitzcarraldo, which deserves its own separate entry on our list. What distinguishes this production wasn't just the Kinski-Herzog dynamic, but how their conflict became entangled with a seemingly impossible artistic vision, hauling a 320-ton steamship over a mountain in the Peruvian jungle, without special effects. The first disaster struck before filming even began. Original star Jason Robards completed 40% of the shoot before becoming seriously ill with dysentery and being forced to abandon the project. His co-star, Mick Jagger, couldn't reschedule around the delays. Herzog, having already spent millions, made the fateful decision to cast Kinski as his replacement. Herzog documented the ensuing chaos in his production diaries, published as Conquest of the Useless, 2009. Kinski raged for 2 hours from 6 to 8 o'clock this morning, he wrote. I let him scream himself hoarse, then went to work with the crew. He just glared at me, red-eyed from his tent. Kinski's behavior terrified the indigenous extras so thoroughly that, as mentioned earlier, they offered to kill him. According to multiple crew accounts compiled in Herzog on Herzog, 2003, Kinski fired a gun on 3 separate occasions during filming, once hitting an extra's finger and another time deliberately shooting into a tent where crew members were playing cards. The physical dangers were equally severe. 3 people were injured when a cable snapped during the ship hauling sequence. A plane crash killed 4 people associated with the production. 6 people sustained serious injuries, including a man who had to amputate his own foot after being bitten by a venomous snake. Through it all, Herzog refused to abandon his vision or use miniatures or special effects. The resulting film won the Best Director award at Cannes and is now considered a masterpiece of determined filmmaking. What makes this production so significant is how it represents the outer limits of what can be justified in the name of art. Herzog himself has reflected on this question numerous times, including in the documentary Burden of Dreams, 1982. If I abandoned this project, I would be a man without dreams. I live my life or I end my life with this project. While Fitzcarraldo tested physical endurance, our number 3 entry reveals how psychological warfare on set changed a classic horror film. Number 3. Alfred Hitchcock and Tippi Hedren. The relationship between director Alfred Hitchcock and actress Tippi Hedren during the filming of The Bird in 1963 and later Marnie, their 1964, represents one of the most troubling examples of power abuse in classic Hollywood. What sets this case apart is Hedren's consistent accounts over decades, substantial corroboration from crew members, and Hitchcock's own documented fixation with his leading lady. Hedren, a former model with little acting experience, was personally selected by Hitchcock, who placed her under an exclusive contract. In her 2016 memoir, Tippi, Hedren details how the director's initial mentorship devolved into obsessive control and harassment. The most infamous incident occurred during the attic scene in The Birds, where Hedren's character is attacked by numerous birds. Hitchcock had assured Hedren they would use mechanical birds for the scene. According to Hedren's account, confirmed by assistant director Jim Brown in the 2012 HBO film The Girl, "When I got on the set, there were cartons of live birds tied with elastics around their ankles, around their wings. They were tied to my costume. The scene was filmed over 5 days with real birds thrown at Hedren for hours at a time. When a bird nearly pecked her eye, she collapsed from exhaustion and was put under medical care for a week. Production records confirmed the filming schedule and her absence due to injury." Hitchcock's assistant, Peggy Robertson, confirmed to Donald Spoto for his 1983 biography, The Dark Side of Genius, that Hitchcock subsequently became obsessed with Hedren, demanding that other cast members not socialize with her off-set. According to multiple accounts, when Hedren rejected his advances, he threatened to ruin her career. Rod Taylor, Hedren's co-star in The Birds, corroborated elements of her account in a 1995 interview with TCM. Hitch had a strange obsession with Tippi. He was constantly following her around the set. After Marnie, Hedren refused to work with Hitchcock again. True to his threat, he kept her under contract for 2 more years, but wouldn't allow her to work, effectively stalling her promising career. What makes this case particularly significant is how it illuminates the extreme power imbalance in Hollywood before modern protections were in place. Hedren's experience has become a touchstone in discussions about harassment in the film industry, decades before the Netflix Me Too movement brought such issues to the forefront. As troubling as Hitchcock's behavior was, our number 2 entry shows how an entire production can spiral into darkness. Number 2. Francis Ford Coppola, Apocalypse Now, 1979, stands as perhaps the most notoriously troubled production in film history. A 238-day shoot in the Philippines that went 300% over budget and pushed everyone involved to their psychological and physical limits. What makes this case unique is how thoroughly it's been documented, most notably in the wife of the director's documentary, Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse, 1991. The production began under an ominous cloud when original lead Harvey Keitel was fired after a week of filming and replaced with Martin Sheen. Within months, a typhoon destroyed sets, causing a costly 7-week delay. Equipment was frequently borrowed from dictator Ferdinand Marcos, who would reclaim helicopters mid-shoot when he needed them to fight actual rebels. Sheen, then 36, suffered a nearly fatal heart attack during filming. In Hearts of Darkness, Eleanor Coppola records her husband saying, "Even if he dies, I want to keep him alive until I've got enough footage." Though clearly hyperbole born from stress, the comment reflects the production's increasingly compromised ethics. Marlon Brando arrived grossly overweight and unprepared, having not read Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness as instructed. He demanded a $3 million advance and shot all his scenes in silhouette to hide his appearance. Coppola, in recorded conversations with his wife, breaks down, "I'm thinking of shooting myself. I'm about to fail." Dennis Hopper and Brando refused to shoot scenes together due to mutual hatred. According to multiple crew accounts compiled in Peter Cowie's book, The Apocalypse Now book, 2001, Hopper was consuming extraordinary amounts of drugs and alcohol throughout filming. As documented in crew interviews for Hearts of Darkness, the production used actual cadavers in some scenes, supplied by a man who turned out to be a grave robber. When authorities discovered this, the production was temporarily shut down. The psychological toll was immense. Coppola lost 100 pounds during filming and threatened suicide multiple times. Sheen, in a documented drunken breakdown captured on film, punched a mirror and smeared himself with blood. Footage Coppola incorporated into the film. What makes this production so significant is how it redefined the limits of what filmmakers and studios would endure for art. The film's troubled genesis has become inseparable from its legacy, with many critics arguing that the chaos of production infused the film with its hallucinatory power. As Coppola himself said in a 1979 press conference at Cannes, "My film is not about Vietnam, it is Vietnam." If you think that's chaotic, our number one entry shows what happens when a director's vision veers into dangerous territory. Number 1. Stanley Kubrick. While we touched on Shelley Duvall's experience earlier, the full story of Stanley Kubrick's approach to The Shining as 1980 deserves our top spot as the most comprehensive example of a challenging on-set relationship that fundamentally altered both the film and everyone involved in making it. What distinguishes this production was Kubrick's systematic approach to generating authentic distress in his actors, a method that raises profound questions about the ethics of filmmaking and the boundaries between direction and manipulation. The production lasted an exhausting 13 months, then a record for a feature film shoot, with principal photography alone taking 51 weeks. The infamous "Here's Johnny" door scene required 3 days and 60 doors. These aren't rumors. They're documented in production records and Kubrick's own statements to Michel Ciment. Jack Nicholson, despite his star power, wasn't spared Kubrick's controlling approach. Stanley's approach to working with actors was like a chess game, Nicholson told Film Comment in 1981. He wanted to win. He'd move us around like pieces until he got exactly what he wanted. According to Garrett Brown, the Steadicam operator who shot the famous tricycle scenes, Kubrick would routinely do 35-45 takes without giving actors specific direction about what to change, creating an atmosphere of constant uncertainty. Scatman Crothers, then 69, was reduced to tears after Kubrick demanded more than 60 takes of a single scene. According to Nicholson's account in Vincent Labruto's 1997 biography, Stanley Kubrick, the veteran actor broke down, asking, "What do you want, Mr. Kubrick? What do you want?" For Danny Lloyd, the 6-year-old who played Danny Torrance, Kubrick created an elaborate fiction. As Lloyd revealed in a 2017 Guardian interview, "I didn't know it was a horror movie. I thought I was just acting in a drama about a family in a hotel." Kubrick carefully prevented him from seeing any disturbing aspects of production, but no one bore the brunt of Kubrick's methods more than Duvall. Beyond the 127 takes mentioned earlier, Kubrick instructed the crew to show Duvall no sympathy, effectively isolating her. In making The Shining, we see Duvall looking physically ill, her complexion gray, voice hoarse from screaming, and hair thinning from stress. When asked about his treatment of Duvall by Ciment, Kubrick was unapologetic. "You shouldn't be concerned about actors being there to be used. That's like saying you can't use rain in a scene because rain doesn't have a choice whether it's going to rain or not." The film stands as Kubrick's most commercially successful and has become a cultural touchstone, but it came at a tremendous cost to those involved. Duvall told Roger Ebert in 1981 that making the film was almost unbearable and the toughest acting experience I've ever had. What makes this production so significant is how it forces us to confront the question, what price is too high for art? Kubrick's methods delivered an undeniable masterpiece, but they also represent the extreme end of directorial control, a level of manipulation that would be considered unacceptable under today's production standards. These 9 challenging relationships have shaped not just the films they produced, but our understanding of the filmmaking process itself. From Herzog's life-threatening pursuit of authenticity to Kubrick's methodical psychological manipulation, they force us to consider the ethical boundaries of art. What's particularly striking is how many of these difficult productions resulted in cinematic masterpieces. This uncomfortable correlation raises a troubling question. Is great art worth the human cost? As audience members, we benefit from the intensity these conflicts sometimes bring to the screen, but we rarely see the toll they take on those who create them. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these challenging relationships surprised you most? Are there other famous on-set conflicts you think deserve examination? In our next documentary, we'll explore either directors who save troubled productions or actors who transform films through conflict. Let us know which you'd prefer. All incidents, described or drawn from on-record sources and labeled where allegations are disputed. Individuals are presumed innocent. This documentary combines reporting with fair comment opinion based on documented behavior.